What are the one best number and two best letters you can possibly start off your game with?
3DO.
Yes, 3DO, although we won't be playing a game on the 3DO console. BattleTanx was developed by 3DO. And you might also know 3DO best as the developers and publishers of most of the Army Men games. Today, though, we're here for this, BattleTanx, which was a relatively short-lived series. It only had two entries in it, this and Global Assault. Another sequel was being planned, although 3DO shut down before that could come to fruition. Which is a shame too, because, spoilers, Global Assault ends with a cliffhanger. What initially attracted me to this game was a commercial that aired for it around the time of its release. And if you go to YouTube and you just look up BattleTanx Snuggle Bear, you will be directed to the commercial, and it's certainly something else. There's a lot of multiplayer options for this, and multiplayer's pretty alright in this game, although we'll be playing through the single-player campaign. And I will present to you the opening crawl for this, so you can get an idea of what the story it's going for is. And I will present this without comment until it's over. Did you get all that? Oh, gotta put my rumble pack in. You only get this option the first time you load up a level. So every other time it's not going to prompt you to do that. Long story short, we're trying to get our wife back from a quarantine zone on the opposite side of the country. Knowing where this game eventually goes, I think this game might have caused Anita Sarkeesian's head to explode if she ever tried dissecting this, because women do play a very powerful role later on in the game. You are given an objective at the beginning of each level, and in this case we just have to destroy some of the tanks that are blocking our path from getting out of New York City. Despite having tank controls in the most literal sense, the game actually controls pretty smoothly. There's even an option for arcade settings where you can strafe around with your tank, although I'm not using that. So basic controls are all on the right side of the N64 controller, like you would expect most N64 games to have. And the funny thing about this particular run is, this is a failure state of the first level. And there's a very specific reason why I failed this first level, and it's so I can show you the most powerful weapon in the game. If you remember from the intro, Griffin was reading a note from Madison, and then nukes went off seemingly only a couple, well, not even a couple dozen miles away, maybe a dozen miles away, and he was fine. But we are about to launch a nuke of our own. And as you are about to see, this actually goes rather poorly for me. Because the thing about nukes is they have a very, very, very wide damage area. I launched it to the northwest corner of the map, and I am heading to the northeast corner of the map, so I'm all the way across, and it's still enough to take off more than half my health and kill me. Alright, now on to the actual run of this level. As you might expect, the first level isn't particularly difficult. This power-up, however, is something you always, always, always want to get. The radar is what lets you see all the enemy tank units that are present on the map. It'll also show things like, later on, the hideouts for certain gangs that you're fighting against. It won't, however, show, like, stationary turrets, and there are a couple of different varieties. There's machine gun turrets, which are smaller, and there are the ones that pretty much fire tank shells. And then there's also a third variety that shoots like little lasers at you, which I believe I encounter at some point in this stage. Now, these have conveniently placed exploding barrels next to them. The barrels are actually deceptively tricky to hit, because the contact point of the shell that you fire with your just default weapon is rather pinpoint with how you have to hit certain objects, especially small objects like exploding barrels. This is something you'll be doing a lot throughout the game, is if you need power-ups, you can knock down buildings, although not all buildings. You'll recognize what the ones you can knock down or plow through look like as you go through the game. They usually have like walls that are drawn a certain way or have cracks in them, or are on fire, like that one to my right. Something else that's really important about this game is health management. What you'll see me do in a lot of areas is, one of the first things I'll go for is any health packs that are nearby. Because when you're at full health, you won't use the health pack, you'll hold on to it. And then you can use that health pack later on. Another important thing about this run is when I defeat enemy tanks, what you'll see me do a lot of times is immediately rush up to the tank that I just destroyed and break it open, because when enemies are killed in this game, they drop star power-ups. Star power-ups give you some points, and then they also give back some of your health. There are also a ton of ammo drops for your default weapon, although I'm not too worried about running out of ammo, because I didn't realize this until I'd already played through a third of the game, but by default, the game has you playing on easy. And there's 3 difficulties: easy, normal, hard. And something else you'll see me doing when there are more tanks or more things that I need to destroy at a faster rate is there's a bit of a delay between when you can fire shells out of your default weapon. But in that time, you can fire your secondary weapon. So what you'll see me do a lot is have spreader missiles up, and then fire those in between regular tank shots. This is a particularly easy level. I'm mostly just farming for points at this time, because you can rack up a ton of points really easily in this game. And you'd think that would mean I could get a lot of extra lives, but that's not actually the case. Because the threshold for getting the first extra life in this game is 250,000 points. However, you can earn bonus tanks by performing particularly well in a level. Bonus tanks are basically extra lives. You can also find bonus tanks at various places in the game, including near the end of this level. And that brings us to the tunnel. Now there are weapons and a radar immediately to the right. This is something else too, you don't have to shoot through everything, you can just run some things over. And there are going to be tanks and turrets on either side of this tunnel, and there are a couple of points where you can blast through the wall to switch over to different sides. Going over to the left immediately for these health packs makes it a bit easier, and it also lets you choose a bit of a plan of attack. Because you can stay to the left for most, if not all of the tunnel, or there's a point where you can cross over to the right again later. In areas like these, where there are only a set amount of tanks in the area, something that you can do is get their attention and then lure them toward you. Because in most levels, the opposing tanks will at some point just come to you. Oh, and there's also these separate little 1,000-point bonus squares that you can pick up. Sometimes they'll be placed in really kind of asshole-ish places, and they really aren't worth going for. You're going to see instances later on where there will be 1 or 2 bonus point blocks, and they're surrounded by landmines. That's something you get to look forward to later, is landmines. In the meantime, I'm not exactly wanting for health or ammo, although since this tank has presented the opportunity, I might as well pick up star power-up. Now, even if the tanks do reveal themselves to you and make them easy to shoot from this side, you can still go back and pick up extra points by doing things like going back for the turrets. They won't always give you huge points, but it is nice to up your kill count a little bit. And I don't really have any more immediate threats until pretty much the end of the stage, because this is where the final turrets come in and where the final tanks come in. That's something else to be wary of too, is that your missiles can catch on various environmental obstacles, and that'll prevent them from going all the way toward whatever you actually want to shoot at. So parked cars are something to worry about. If there's a destructible barricade in your way, your fire will catch on that. Although if there's a solid barricade in your way, you'll just shoot over it. It's one of those little things about playing this game that takes getting used to. In the meantime, I'm trying to get back to the other side of the tunnel. Because, for those of you who are paying attention to the beginning of this, there's something on the left side of this tunnel that I want to pick up. And this turret is the last thing I can kill. Might as well get the bonus points, because why not? And now we're going to very carefully move forward, because once I'm on the other side of those gates, the level will end. But I can get an extra tank before then. And I just realized, this is one of those old games where you could save to a memory card, or you could use a password. And I'm going to cut the video here, but next time on BattleTanx, we're going to Times Square.